How about these New Jersey Devils?
Yeah, baby.
In the playoffs for the first time since reaching the Stanley Cup final in 2012. Ken Daneyko is New Jersey Devils' great player and
Mr. Devil.
Mr. Devil, and now, of course, Devils caller analyst, and kind enough to join us here on Big Board Sports on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio in Albany. Ken, Roger Weiland, and Chris Honorato, good morning.
Hi, guys. How are you today?
We're good, Ken. We appreciate it. Let's just start with the team in general. How surprised are you with how this season has unfolded? And do you give them a fighting chance as an 8 seed taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round starting on Thursday night?
Well, first off, I always give any team in the Stanley Cup playoffs a puncher's chance for sure. And I've been through it, and certainly when our team was favored and when we were an underdog team like in 1988, where this team's very similar, where we made the playoffs for the first time and carried that momentum down the stretch and won the first couple of rounds, upsetting Islanders in Washington before we lost 7 to Boston, or would have went to the Stanley Cup final. So we know that in the playoffs, especially in the National Hockey League, anything can happen, and the competitive balance is even more so today. Gives you a chance. It's a tall order. Tampa Bay is one of the deepest teams in the National Hockey League, certainly fast and very skillful. So it's going to take a monumental effort. They're going to have to do what they've done all season long. But right from the start, just saw a different attitude with this team. In training camp, Coach Hines and Ray Sherr can't say enough about the job they have done, and the rest of John Hines' staff as far as, you know, everybody holding each other accountable. Ray Sherr obviously adding some pieces and some young kids that you never know during the season or start the season how well they're going to play, how big of an impact they can have right away. And you look no further than the Nico Hischers and Will Butchers and Jesper Bratt. These guys gave them a fresh look, some more skill sets, and they were very, very effective during the regular season. And then the monster monumental year that Taylor Hall had leading the charge, and you usually need a star player to carry you, and he certainly did that from an offensive standpoint most of the season. But is it a surprise during the playoffs? Well, probably to a lot of people, and I didn't know what to expect. I just knew going into the year they were going to be much better than a lot of people gave them credit for.
And we all know Ken had to be good between the pipes, and we followed this young man's career going back to his college days right here in the Capital Region at Union College, and then with the Albany Devils downtown, and saw a lot of Keith Kinkaid. He leads the NHL in wins since the middle of February. How about your thoughts on the play of Kinkaid, and can he get the job done here in the postseason?
He's certainly been pretty remarkable down the stretch, and you mentioned pretty well from the middle of February, and a big reason why the Devils did make the playoffs. And I don't care how good your team is or how well you play, but goaltending, we know, the most important position. If your goaltender doesn't step up and play extremely well, you're not going to make the playoffs, or you're not going to do much in the playoffs as well. But this is new for Keith. We will see if he can carry his excellent play into the playoffs, and he's going to have to be pretty close to excellent to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. But give him a lot of credit. He stepped in, he got his opportunity, and he put confidence in the coaches. That's what it is for any kind of goaltender, any players. To get that opportunity, you know, Keith in the past would have a real good effort, and maybe didn't get the opportunity. Sometimes that's part of it, to play regularly, but he'd have a big game and then falter a little bit if he got back-to-back games over the last few years. Well, all of a sudden, he's taken his whole mental aspect of his game to another level, and he did something, because he looks like a different guy. And not that he was not pretty good before, but he wrestled the number one job away, and some of that because of injury, certainly. And Corey Schneider, who's a true pro, has handled it excellently. But Coach Hines, rode Keith Kinkaid from the standpoint he couldn't take him out. He was playing that good. And then I always look for goaltenders. I don't claim to be a goaltending expert, but everybody always looks at the save percentage of the goals against, and he's middle of the pack in that regard. It's not numbers that would stand out, down the stretch much better, but it's about making the right save, a big save at the right time in a 1-1 game or down 1-0 and keeping your team around. And he did that so often in the month of March and in April, where boy, he'd make a big save at the right time, give the Devils a lift or a boost, and they were able to go the other way and score and win a lot of tight games which they needed every point, as we saw. Nobody around them lost, and the Florida Panthers, a team on the outside looking in, was one of the best teams the last 30 games of the season. They wonder what they had to do to get themselves in because nobody lost around them. But the Devils got it done, large in part to the elevated play of Keith Kinkaid. He was terrific.
The great Ken Daneyko with us here on Big Board Sports and 104.5 The Team ESPN Radio. His number 3 hangs in the rafters at the Prudential Center in Newark. Ken, in regards to Kinkaid having that number 1 job, I think maybe people who haven't watched this Devils team this year assume it isn't on real steady ground. So as somebody who's around this team constantly and talking to the coaches, I wonder this myself. If New Jersey finds themselves down 2-0 and Tampa's lighting up the scoreboard, what is the leash on Keith Kinkaid before Hines may go to Corey Schneider?
I think it's just a feel and see how comfortable Keith is and what how the goals are going in. These guys know a lot more of that stuff, the in-depth of how they feel he's played or the guys around him. So I don't think it's one of those things where it's a quick leash. There's no, he's earned that right. And certainly, again, the big reason why the Devils are in the Stanley Cup playoffs because of his play. And I don't see any reason why he's going to falter. I mean, he's dialed in, he's focused. So I expect good things from Keith in the playoffs. But you do have a guy in Corey Schneider who certainly has proven it over the years and in the playoffs at times, even with the Vancouver Canucks. He can be an elite goaltender. So it's a good option to have. You look, I think last year, 7 of the 16 playoff teams used both goaltenders, and Nashville Predators, one of the teams that went to the finals, or the 2 teams that went to the finals, the Pittsburgh Penguins and Predators. Whether it's from injury, whether it's from you want a different look for a game because you didn't feel the goaltender played well the night before, you need both guys possibly, and that's why Corey Schneider got the last game. No, he hasn't won in a while. Some of it's been tough luck, some of it's the play around him, but if need be, he'll certainly be ready. But I think the coaching staff certainly has a lot of faith in Keith Kinkaid right now.
Well, that's great. And again, we have followed that young man's career. He has worked his tail off to get to where he is right now, and I hope he has a really big playoff. And this actually, Ken, first season since 2010 without the Devils AHL affiliate in Albany. So we do know there's a lot of New Jersey fans right here in the 518 that'll be rooting certainly for New Jersey and certainly for Keith Kinkaid.
Well, say hello to everybody. I've been up to Albany a few times for playoff games and things like that and met some of the fans, and they were terrific. So we appreciate the support up here, and it's going to be a lot of fun here. And root for your boy, Keith Kinkaid, because, man, has he been good. And it's been a lot of fun to watch all season long, this team, the way they've developed to come together. They're the big underdog here, but they do have a puncher's chance. So we'll see what happens. If they did have some success against them in the regular season, I don't put a lot of onus in that, but certainly it gives them a little confidence that if we compete, we can be in this, and we're not going to be overwhelmed.
Do they let you make a pep talk to the team or anything? Do you get to do that?
Obviously, I'm a little emotionally invested here, guys. I just want to see their success when you're here for 30-plus years. It's tough to call games sometimes, believe me, because in between trying to be analytical and being a fan, I want to jump out of the booth at times. Poor Steve Cangelosi has some bruises on his back to attest for that, where I get a little fired up, as people know.
Strap in, Ken. I love the passion, man. It's all good coming from a former player. We love it. Keep up the great work. Thanks for a few minutes here in Albany.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Ken. Great to talk to you, man.